economia partidei. Delgado acolo este, va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
Okay.
Let's do this. Man's got a bit of traffic. Okay. I got a bum education, double-digit inflation. Can't take a train to the job. There's a strike at the station. I got a mid-range migraine, cancer and membrane. I think I might go insane. I swear I might hijack a plane. Welcome to It Ain't Broke on Val Verde Broadcasting. I'm Richard Jackson. As ever, I'm joined today by Duncan Casey, actor of stage and or screen. What is it today? And/or screen?
I'm doing some Andor today, I think.
The moon of Andor.
Yeah.
In case you wondered, we have got a new thing going on Patreon. If you're a $3 tier or above, we're streaming our whole shoot day on Patreon live, so you can watch us work all day. We've got a bunch of people in the room right now watching us, not like with naked or anything. That sounded weird. It sounded like a swingers party when I said that. There's people in the room
There's
watching
keys in a bowl over there.
Yeah, keys in a bowl, pineapple in the window. So you can watch the whole thing live. We're chatting between. Yeah, dude.
Don't leave pineapple
asking for a friend. You can tune in and watch this live, so that's great, and all that great stuff. Today we're here to talk about John Carpenter's 2001 film Ghosts of Mars, starring Ice Cube and Natasha Henstridge.
And Jason Statham.
It's a deeply strange and also bad film, and I'm careful here, but this is a film, you know, made by a man that we both immensely respect, and we're in the world of John Carpenter, and he's someone that we, you know, for the most part know and love here.
Yeah, even this doesn't make me not love him.
Yeah, God, no. Yeah, no. I mean, It's inoffensive. It just sucks. You know, it's kind of...
yeah.
So this is, 2001. It's the kind of, I believe, the first post-millennial Carpenter film. He kind of like stopped after this for quite some time. Did The Ward, did an episode of Masters of Horror. There's the kind of fallow period of Carpenter from Memoirs of Invisible Man with Chevy Chase, which I do want to watch, actually, again.
Okay.
Because I haven't watched that in a really long time, and the more I think about this, the stranger it is. In the Mouth of Madness is actually really good. There's his version of Children of the Damned, which I actually think is actually all right.
Which one's that?
It's a kind of TV movie situation.
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. It was not good. So, Ghosts of Mars, I think this came up last night as a possible for this show because Duncan and I appeared at MCM Comic Con last March, we're saying, in Birmingham. And we shared a hotel room, and we just ended up watching. We got pissed and watched Ghosts of Mars, and it was a pretty sort of harrowing experience. So we just sat and watched it because I remember watching it when it came out, and even then, like knowing it was bad, but hey, it's a John Carpenter film, and just kind of feeling that it sucked and kind of putting it down. But watching it again, 15 odd years later, or not quite. It was arguably worse than I remember. What are your feelings on Ghosts of Mars?
Oh yeah, I think I caught it on TV or something. I don't remember how I came. I never sort of I don't think I've ever purposefully sat down and watched
Caught it like gonorrhea.
Yes, probably about 10 years ago. I remember seeing it and just being like, "What?"
Megalodon.
What's a megalodon? Yeah, it was. I remember thinking this is not good. Looks cheap and tacky and crappy and all that sort of stuff, but and then when putting it on for comedic value though is sort of kind of funny.
It's real charm
legs.
for it though, because it's John Carpenter and it's just like, I don't want to laugh at this because it's fucking, who made it, but at the same time everything about it is wrong. It's just kind of wrong.
It feels like it's every decision it's making. It's like it shows it just doesn't have any confidence in itself in a weird way. So that's how it comes across to me. It's like I'm sure you've had those days where it's like every decision you make, just because of the delay you add to that decision making, you end up making the wrong one. If that makes sense, you like don't listen to your gut and you overthink something, and I had those so many times where it's like a succession of dumb or like just making the wrong choice, and I get really annoyed with myself. And that's how that film. That's like the cinematic personification or cinemonification of that. It's like It's just like a bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It really is a fucking wet Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, I see what it's trying to do. Well, it's John Carpenter. It's sci-fi. It's high concept, and I see what it's trying to do because it's kind of like if your main character's played by Ice Cube and he's called Desolation Williams, it's not meant to be taken at face value. I mean,
no.
Do you know what? Snake Plissken is a ridiculous name. You know, and it's very much in that kind of Escape from New York area of Carpenter. And it's a high concept sci-fi romp, and I get that. But it's got this kind of something I really dislike in this. That really kind of what I always enjoyed about Carpenter, and I've said this a lot, is just like it's kind of this. His style's kind of unfussy. And he uses wide lenses a lot in places where other directors I think wouldn't, like really kind of wide. He really uses that kind of CinemaScope type format, or Panavision, I think, I can't remember. But he uses that format a lot, and it's very kind of no nonsense framing, no nonsense editing. It's not boilerplate, it's stylish, but it's kind of clean. And Ghosts of Mars has you know. It's like the equivalent. There are transitions and stuff in it that are the equivalent of like Star Wipes in 2001. It's like someone's got a new copy of Adobe Premiere and they found all the kind of novelty transitions because it's full of those awful digital transitions where it's just like, yes, Star Wipe, Star Wipe, Star Wipe. Yeah. So there's so much between these shots and scenes and special effects stuff where it's just this kind of like horrible digital blur, and it makes the whole thing flow like treacle. It's got this kind of weird, gloppy, syrupy texture to it, and it just flows so badly.
It's also got that odd sort of POV of the evil thing that you know Raimi was known for. That kind of just feels wrong. Like, it's like it's trying to play in a pool of. There was a slew of that, I guess, post Raimi, but I don't know if it was anyone else. Where it was like. The thing's looking around and it infects people, so we just run up to them with the camera and it's like, and now they've got the evil.
Very nicely cheap. It's one thing when Sam Raimi and his buddies did it in the woods for $20, but when you're multi-million dollar film.
Yeah, I mean, it just... It's sort of got all the... I won't call them has-beens, because they're not, but they're sort of the stars of the day, but not quite. They're the sort of like... I mean, Statham's on his upwards trajectory, that's fine.
It's really not long after Lock, Stock, and it's the same year. Oh no, it's the year after Snatch. Yeah.
So he's kind of in an upswing as far as like is it his first Hollywood film?
I think the one would have been first with Delroy Lindo. I can't remember.
Right. Okay.
Another sci-fi romp. I think it's the same year. I can't remember. I must say, in terms of my research for this particular film, I've been quite invested in today's movies, but I've given this one a very short shrift because kind of fuck it. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know how much. I mean, yeah, same, but I don't know how much talk there is of this out there. I don't know if it's a film that seems to have sort of got lost in the reeds a bit as far as the internet's concerned. I don't think people
it's funny. Well, I think it sort of came along when the internet was in its infancy, so it didn't get enough truck, and it's not bad enough to be top 10 worst films ever.
It falls between the cracks.
So it's not even worthy of clickbait, I think.
And it doesn't have anything in it to keep people coming back to it, I think, is the biggest problem. There's no high concept though it is. There is nothing in it that's particularly engaging.
It doesn't even have, because it's got this kind of generic guitar thrashy music, and I can't remember whether or not Carpenter was involved in that, but like one of the things you at least get in a Carpenter film is John Carpenter's music. And I can't remember if he did it or not for this film, but it doesn't matter because it's so bland.
Kind of hope he didn't. Yeah.
You kind of hope he didn't. He may well have done, but one thing at least you can walk away from is a kind of I think this perhaps gets grouped together with Escape from LA, which is similarly kind of dopey and with kind of a few ropey effects. But I've come back round on Escape from. I like Escape from LA now. I used to hate it when I watched Escape from New York, and then Escape from LA came out. As my brother was like, they made another fucking Escape from New York, and I was just like, what are you talking about? And watched it and like, what the fuck? Yeah. But actually, Escape from LA's got a lot going on, and I like it now. But there's no joy in this. I think that's the problem with it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're watching it and you're waiting for the penny to drop, and it just never does, and then it ends in a really inauspicious way, doesn't it? I can't remember the ending exactly.
It's basically they defeat the ghosts, but they don't defeat the ghosts, and then I think Natasha Henstridge is in jail, in space jail, and then Desolation Williams comes to break her out of space jail, but he's dressed like he's in the Matrix, and he's got some nickel-plated Tech 9s.
Right.
And it's just like, so you got the guy from NWA and gave him nickel-plated guns in this kind of cheap sort of, I guess that's what rap music is, estimation. Yeah. Which is just dumb. It was supposed to be Courtney Love was cast in this.
Oh, right.
And she had to drop out because she broke her leg or something, and Natasha Henstridge stepped in. So like, fuck knows what that would have been like. I don't know. Like, I find this is strange one for Statham because his accent changes from scene to scene. He's kind of sometimes he's South African, then he's English, then he's American, then he's kind of Irish, I guess. For a bit.
I think I don't know. I mean, I gather he's supposed to sort of be American. I mean, they got him to do that for a while. When he started doing American films, I mean, like I still maintain the first Transporter, I think he's supposed to be American.
I do, yeah. And then he's kind of managed to perfect that mid-Atlantic thing so a bunch of producers can have the best of both worlds.
Well, it's like Liam Neeson, isn't it? You always think he's just being Liam Neeson and he's got this sort of weird no sort of accent of no fixed the bone.
In the commuter. He talks about how he's Irish, and it's like, okay, you've had to throw that in.
But then when he speaks in interviews, and he's like, hello there, I'm from... You're like, oh, fuck, he's actually... I mean, that's his real...
He's like really Irish.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's not dissimilar to when we've talked about this before, like when Arnold Schwarzenegger's called Ben Richards. Yeah. So he's not called Ben Richards, like for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
He's like Gunther Hagenstoff or something. Like he's not like Ben Richards. And Statham just kind of run around in this. And do you know what? Like this is the problem. I think if the stars had aligned differently, I like John Carpenter, I like Jason Statham. Let's put the two things together. And in this, it's just like it feels so kind of pedestrian, I suppose. This film does feature Harry Knowles' head on a stick. Did you know that?
Harry Knowles?
Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool News, disgraced editor of Ain't It Cool News. You know about Ain't It Cool News?
No, I didn't know.
If you
I heard of it.
Ever feel like inducing vomiting, you should look up Harry Knowles' review of Blade 2.
Okay.
It's where he uses the kind of metaphor of Guillermo del Toro performing cunnilingus. He's one of the worst film reviewers ever. And he had a website called Ain't It Cool News, which he no longer runs because he got done for Me Too stuff. And his head's on a stick in this film. So kudos to Carpenter for that, really.
Fair enough.
I think, I mean, this is the John Carpenter that made Escape from LA, not the one that made They Live. And again, I've got no problem with Escape from LA in this day and age. But it's lots of nonsensical running around in sets and stuff, and it doesn't really... I can barely recall the plot to you. I didn't watch it that long ago.
It feels like almost like a Cannon film in that it's got that kind of... you feel like they've had their budget slashed halfway through or something. It feels compromised in crazy ways. Isn't there a lot of like that flashing negative thing as well?
Yeah,
like
kind of wacky film burn stuff, and the ghosts of Mars are kind of generic, like dreadlocked goth guy things.
Well, they sort of look like what? No, there's another film with stuff like that.
They're kind of faintly reminiscent of the Cyclos from Battlefield Earth.
Okay, which
is unfortunate because that came out around the same time.
Yeah, they just Pandorum as well. I was thinking they kind of have that,
Pandorum,
but like less sophisticated. But
you
know what I mean. That's
sort of like,
but they're just humans with makeup on ultimately, and it's like, well, what?
I do actually think something that gets asked of us like quite a lot is like if you could remake a film that didn't do well. Like Ghost of Mars is quite a cool premise because it plays into the kind of big cultural thing was the face on Mars and the pyramid on Mars, which are both bullshit. Like those are just images that happen to be taken at a certain time of day.
Right.
And if you look at the face and the pyramid at a different time of day, they're just rocks. But culturally, the concept of stuff on Mars and life on Mars, it was a huge thing, and it's what Total Recall is essentially doing. Total Recall is about reactivating the legacy of like a dead society, an ancient dead society, and it's the same thing here. The ghosts on Mars because Mars once had life and it's all dead and now it's haunted by people who were going out trick or treating, I guess. Wearing bin bags. It's just so.
Yeah, the delivery of the concept just doesn't. And I don't know why. I don't. Carpenter's someone who. It seems like when he's. I don't want to give him that cliched sort of tarring of someone who's good when he's restricted, when he's reined in by a budget. Because it's not true.
It's not true.
The thing is testament to that. You can make shit out of.
He's the one that inspires so many of us, right? Because he fucking made like Dark Star and Precinct 13 from like fuck all money, and then I wonder a lot. I think really because I just don't give a shit about this film. It's a venue to discuss. I think the career of John Carpenter as an auteur. Because he's an auteur. He's a very widely loved one, especially around these parts, and. I struggle to chart the decline of him, to be honest, because like The Mouth of Madness is a legitimately good movie, and I like Escape from LA, coming back on itself. Vampires is all right. It's fine. It's not bad. But it's just there's this idea that he just went off a cliff, which isn't necessarily true because there is some good stuff in the end.
Yeah.
This, it doesn't help that this was the full stop for a while.
Yeah.
I've never seen The Ward. That's the horror kind of psychiatric hospital thing he did as a feature not that long ago. It kind of came and went without much fanfare.
My wife's very good at finding crappy horror films on Netflix, so maybe, I don't think I've seen it.
I like to think I would have watched it if it was there.
It's a tough one. I mean, I suppose he's just that guy who, you kind of got to take your Ghosts of Mars and your wards or whatever in order to get the thing, and in order to get all these. It's almost like you've got to have your medicine. Yeah, in a way, he can't just hit everyone out of the park. This is the
thing, he fucking, think of all the amazing shit he gave us that we worship. And the thing is with him as well, because I've read interviews and stuff with him, and he made all this stuff where at the time, everyone gave him a fucking kick in. All the reviews were shit and nobody watched them. And then years later, when it's no use to him, everybody fucking loves him.
That seems to be his cross to bear for whatever reason. He's But I don't put that in the same mold as being ahead of your time, because I don't think it is that. I think it's almost being out of your, behind it in a way, because it's kind of he's delivering things that people want. Well, perhaps it's the medium he's working in. Perhaps it's the cinema. Maybe it's just the fact that, because I don't think I've ever seen one of his films in the cinema, because I was too young really to catch most of them.
Yeah, I've seen them after the fact. So I've seen The Thing and They Live and Halloween and stuff, because I've gone as a 20, 30 something year old.
But you imagine if those films were coming out now, and in that era as well,
Well, I say this much. The good thing is that in terms of the lifestyle it's afforded him, he's done very well. I think he's a wealthy man, because even just the music from Halloween has been endlessly sampled, so he gets a royalty for that. And as someone who composes soundtracks and music, it's reused. Charlie Brooker used to use his music all the time. There's that, and there's something what I really kind of like about him is, he's this 70-something odd dude. From his own admission, he basically smokes a load of weed and plays Call of Duty all the time. And it's why the fuck not? You weren't appreciated in your time. You've made a bunch of money. You do what you fucking like, John Carpenter.
Oh yeah, definitely.
No problem with that.
Yeah.
So I just like the idea he's this kind of ancient stoner gamer. And also, I've singularly failed to book tickets every time. I think I've always been a bit skint every time the bookings have come round, but he tours his musical show. It's fuck. Oh my God. And I know for a fact there are people in our audience that have been to Tony Carpenter's sort of musical performances, and too fucking right. That sounds fucking amazing. I'd be so down to go see Carpenter live. Yeah. I love his music, and a lot of some of my favourite, I know Stanton Warriors did a Precinct 13 sample, and the music from Xenon 2, the game, was based on a dance track, which in itself was a Precinct 13 thing. Dr. Dre used Halloween. All this stuff's all over, and it's so influential as well. People are in this kind of I'm going to say it, but in this tedious fucking 80s nostalgia wave that's been going on for the last 1,000 years. People are desperate to ape John Carpenter.
He must feel as well a certain sense of what's the word? Not vitriol, but not even vindication. But he's probably pissed off the fact that he was called what he was at the time, and then they start remaking his shit decades later, and it's Precinct 13 and the Thing remake. It's
and The Fog.
And The Fog, of course, yeah. All kind of falling by the wayside and squandering.
Jesus, Halloween, Precinct 13, The Fog, The Thing. That's 4 right there. There's probably more. They've been trying their fucking darndest to make Escape from LA forever as a remake. Big Trouble, they've been trying to remake.
Oh, why?
I love that he just... did you hear the sass that Carpenter gave about Big Trouble?
No.
It was great. He was kind of I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was to the tune of no one's spoken to me, so fuck him. Which is great. Yeah. And I assume as well, he didn't actually write Big Trouble, but I think there must be some kind of royalty for him creatively, you would hope, in terms of these remakes. And again, I don't think he does badly from a financial point of view.
Well, I would hope not. But I think
if he sat around smoking weed and playing PlayStation, then it doesn't sound like it.
No. Obviously, him and Kurt Russell was a really nice pairing for a time, and it seems like they've,
Yeah.
they found their stride a bit.
And that still seems to be like a friendship and an affection that's there when you hear them talking, because that's very much like fucking keep Scorsese De Niro. I'm all about Russell and Carpenter, man.
Yeah.
That's where it's at for me. And that still seems to be quite a sweet kind of thing between them. I do think no one gives a shit about Ghost of Mars, right? We're just going to talk about John Carpenter. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, what else is there to say?
Well, that's the problem. There's nothing to say there, and it's just okay. This is just basically a venue to talk about John Carpenter. I do think. I careful how I phrase this, but I do think he's kind of given up. Because he's not making movies right now. That's what I mean. And he doesn't need to. And he's touring with his music and he's doing his own thing. And it's like, you know what? He's just come back and just had a kick in. And what I would too. Fuck, he stuck it out longer than I would over the fucking amount of kickings he got for making. And he was making great movies as well.
Yeah, it's almost like we're just out of step with him. It's that thing of like, well, he suddenly has success in retrospect. And it's like, so 10 years down the line, they drag him out and they go, come on, make something good again. We like that. And it's like, all right, Ghost of Mars. And then people go, fuck is this? Like, and it's like, well, then
he zigs, we zag. I mean, who knows? You know, it's had it. You know, in terms of the timescale of the rediscovered appreciation of his previous works, if it's going to happen, this is the time that a bunch of 18-year-olds suddenly decide that Ghost of Mars is amazing. Because that's like us as fucking 18-year-olds watching The Thing and it blowing our minds. It's just the idea of a bunch of these fucking don't drink, don't go out, vegan, Instagram influencer 18-year-olds suddenly discovering Ghost of Mars and like revering it as this undiscovered classic. It's like,
it seems unlikely.
Do you think there was going to be a screening at Fire Festival? Well, I think actually the plot of Ghost of Mars is pretty close to what happened at Fire Festival, as far as I can tell. Replace Ice Cube with Ja Rule.
But yeah, it's I don't know that. Whereas the thing, I mean, again, it came at a time where nothing about it is particularly spectacular. Nothing is captivating. Nothing is. I mean, what is it tapping into? It doesn't. No one gives a shit about Mars. I mean, we fucking landed a rover on Mars since then and looked at it.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because you've got Total Recall. I think if you want to talk about Martian films, Total Recall is very high up in that landscape.
It's also actually, you're right. In that time period as well, there were a lot of like, what was the Mission to Mars?
Mission to Mars and the Red Planet.
Yeah.
I think one of those is I can't remember which one, but I think one's a De Palma film, isn't it? Or some? Oh no, not De Palma. Anyway, something made by a filmmaker, a serious filmmaker. There's a strange kind of glut of Martian-related films. I do think there's a kind of vaguely look The Matrix has come out type thing, because when Ice Cube's at the end in his like leather kind of trench coat and stuff. But then that being said, you know, Snake, I really don't like Snake's costume in Escape from LA when he turns up in all that leather shit.
Right.
But it's before The Matrix.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know, because it's not even as if it's got particularly good action and gunplay in it. There's no like standout action sequence or whatever.
I can't remember. I have seen it, but yonks ago. So I need to, I guess, rewatch that. But I mean, again, that just speaks to Carpenter being out of whack. It's like he's put a thing in there that may well have been an original idea. I don't know, but it's just fallen at the wrong time for people. But I just don't think. I don't know with Ghost of Mars. I can't imagine that it's ever going to really like going to feel like something that was out of time.
Well, that's the problem. I think now it would have happened. I think if it was that good, and it is like I say, like from a pretty technical level. Because I always liked John Carpenter's lighting. You know, everything about the way his films constructed, I've always enjoyed. And Ghost of Mars, it's kind of bland looking. It's got weird edits and effects that just don't need to be there. It's got kind of an uninteresting strip, like kind of underwhelming performances, like mediocre effects, forgettable music.
Yeah, it feels like a very compromised film, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't know the production history of it and everything, but I mean, it feels like something that was wrestled out of the director's hands and edited by someone else, but I gather it wasn't.
I don't believe so. I mean, I don't understand that it was anything particularly interfered with, and it's not as if it's at some insanely high budget level where that type of malarkey is you know, it happens on cheaper things. And like you say, it often feels quite like a sort of like a Canon film or something like that, but with a bit more money.
Yeah.
And everyone, it's all kind of slightly C-listy, you know, because Natasha Henstridge and fucking.
She got her tits out.
Got her tits out.
In that Species. Oh, I like that.
Oh, look at that! You're a fucking
That's a
Species.
film that's not held up well.
I'm not a fan of that movie. Species 2 had some sort of more gonzo-y stuff in it, but isn't the creature from Species from Mars? It comes back on a space probe or something, doesn't it? I can't remember. But it's still that kind of. I think.
Giga designed it.
Giga did design it, yeah. I think after Independence Day there is kind of an uptick in this kind of spacey B-movie premise, and I think this comes off the back of that. And that didn't last that long, and I think a lot of the spacey B-movie stuff came off of the big cultural kind of thing in the 90s was conspiracies and UFOs, and then Independence
X-Files
Day. Precisely, yeah. And Independence Day made a kind of 50s B invasion picture as a kind of writ large type thing, and I think maybe this comes on the back of that. And Santa Claus Conquers the Martians and the Invaders from Mars. Like Mars was a strange fixation in fiction in the 50s and 60s as well.
Yeah, well, is that? Do you think that's a product of us being on the cusp of all these new technologies and communications that were coming out, and it was a sort of last hurrah for the kind of we don't know,
maybe
these things will be uncovered or there's conspiracy because I guess they assumed that once the internet was prevalent, that all information would be out there. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, Mars in fiction, from certain situationally in terms of scientific discoveries, like whenever there were clearer images of planets, they would reappear in the culture. And kind of fiction on Mars, you can trace that back in the last kind of century or so to Edgar Rice Burroughs and John Carter of Mars, and then that was highly influential on lots of other stuff. And like I say, loads of the 50s B stuff was about Mars. For some reason, it's always about Mars, but it's kind of the next planet up, I suppose. So this is kind of lots of theorizing and stuff about that planet.
Well, there was that unknown thing about there's no in terms of its placement in the solar system. I believe there's no reason why it couldn't support a kind of life, whether it not us, but it could support.
Well, as of
just has no atmosphere.
As of a week or two ago, it seems that there might be warm flowing water under the surface of Mars, salinated water,
really?
which we've been talking about endlessly. But they believe they've found what might be vents. It's quite exciting.
I get so excited about all that stuff.
I know.
Like the black hole picture. I was like, oh my god,
that's so fucking good. That's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Well. We're nearing the end of this discussion that mostly wasn't about Ghost of Mars. But why would it be? Because, the film sucks. Right, let's get some plugs out of the way. I'm going to wrap this one up. This has all been streamed live for our shoot day. So you can get involved in that if you donate on Patreon. We have a PayPal tip jar below. We also have a merchandise store and affiliate links. If you could help us keep the lights on, that would be lovely. But if you're not into all that, fair play as well. We still hope you enjoyed the show. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your mates, tell your dog, tell your mum, tell your auntie, have a cake, eat a shoe. I don't know, I'm just listing things. We'll be back next week. This is on every Monday at 3 p.m. But owing to the non-linearity of the live streaming format and whatever, it's also permanently on the internet forever, unless we get sued or cancelled. That's it. See you next time. Goodbye, Duncan Casey. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Richard Jackson. Goodbye.
Goodbye, internet. Goodbye. Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Val Verde Shop.